Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the melee gunblade, the Stropha. So in this weapon series, I take a weapon, I build it out, and I test that weapon on its own merits. Meaning I don't mix it with any kind of external factors that would increase weapon performance. That would be things like Warframes using abilities, pets putting statuses on enemies, things like that. I just test the weapon built out by itself, and I let the viewer make their own intelligent conclusions about adding those external things. Now, the only difference is when I do a melee video, I do mix it with one external, and that is because almost all melee weapons are going to use a mod called Condition Overload, and Condition Overload requires you to be priming enemies. And just so it removes any human factor of priming, I use a pet to prime for me. Now, in normal melee builds, I will use my Dirija to prime for me, because Dirija is the best melee primer. However, for gunblades, because they shoot out a little bit farther than like your typical melee range, I'm going to use a Hound primer. The Hound is the best ranged primer in the game. So Dirija will be the best melee primer, Hound's the best ranged primer. Because gunblades are kind of a in-between, I'm going to use the Hound today. Alrighty, so the Stropha, the suggestion for it is coming to you from commenter ConHN Guy Enviet. And we have the top commenter of the last video, Sharkbite Arcturus, and the first commenter of the last video, PressPlay76. Okay. So the Stropha. It's a pretty cool looking gunblade. It's a weapon that's been in the game for quite some time. And it's very powerful, actually. I personally, admittedly, don't have a lot of experience with gunblades. I of course have everything in the game, and I've leveled them up, and I've used them a few times, but I'm not a huge gunblade player. So today, with like my research on it and trying out different builds and doing all the testing, I have more of an appreciation for these things. They're actually really, really good. Okay. So interesting things about the Stropha. So the Stropha is going to fire a single wide close range shockwave for its heavy attack. It also has attacks that are built into the melee animations that also shoot a single projectile. The shot has a wide radius, so again, it's a wide shockwave that comes out. Firing within 1 meter of an enemy will ragdoll that enemy. Shots will have infinite body punch through, and they will have a maximum of 17-meter range. The shots also have fall off like you would see with a shotgun, basically. However, for melee weapons, there's really no way to increase fall off damage. I think Zephyr has some weird augment that will increase fall off damage for melees. And there might be like one other thing, maybe like some of the new Warframes that came out maybe have like an augment that I'm just not aware of yet. But most of the time, you're not going to be able to affect this fall off. So it's kind of stuck where it is unless you're using some like one of those weird things like the Zephyr augment. All right. So you have the melee, the melee damage, but we're kind of going to be focusing more on shooting the Stropha. So we have the projectile, the heavy attack, which is also a projectile, and the damage here. So this is kind of what we're focusing on. All right, and I have for you the absolute min-maxed way to build a Stropha. So the first thing you're going to notice is that we have both sacrificial mods on. And you'll probably also notice that the first sacrificial mod only is upgraded to 8. So I actually had to buy a second sacrificial pressure today to do this build. So I bought this second sacrificial pressure and I upgraded it to 8 because anything higher, you will not be able to fit this on your weapon unless you are willing to use an Umbral Forma. And I never recommend using an Umbral Forma for a melee weapon unless it is your most favorite weapon in the game. You have a picture of it above your bed while you sleep. If that's not the case, you should not be using an Umbral Forma on your melee weapons because they take 2 months of actual in-game time, or not in-game, of real-life time to wait for Teshin to come around with it. Or you're at the mercy of hoping that DE drops one in a Twitch drop. So Without using Umbral Formas, you will need a rank 8 Sacrificial Pressure. Okay, so let's go over the mods here. So we have the rank 8 Sacrificial Pressure. This is just melee damage. We're going to get a lot of melee damage with Condition Overload. But because this is a set, Sacrificial Pressure not only gives you melee damage and damage to Sentience, which is a little bit niche, but it also boosts up Sacrificial Steel's critical chance by a bit. So not only is this flat damage, but it's critical chance as well. You could look at it. Then we have Sacrificial Steel. This is going to be critical chance. Organ Shatter is going to be critical damage. Gladiator Might is going to be critical damage. And 240% critical chance. So this is 60 critical damage and 240% critical chance. Then we have Condition Overload, which is going to be giving us flat damage per unique status affecting the target. And that's where our primer pet comes in. Again, most melee weapons are going to use Condition Overload. I think there's a couple that don't, but they're kind of niche and utility focused. Gladiator Vice. So in this slot, we typically, on most melee builds, we typically will use Berserker Fury in this slot, because Berserker Fury gives us 70 attack speed, where this only gives us 30, and 30 is usually not enough for like a regular melee build. But the Stropha is not a regular melee weapon, it's a gunblade. And to play the Stropha correctly, you don't really need that much attack speed. It's nice to have a little bit, but you don't need 70%. So I feel like the 30 attack speed is good enough. It feels good enough on it. And you get that bottom part, which combos with Gladiator Might, and this will boost it up from giving us that 120 crit to 240 crit and max X. So that's why we go with Gladiator Vice in this particular situation over Berserker Fury. Blood Rush next is going to be critical chance stacking with combo multiplier. And you'll also notice a difference in our melee builds from the past. So in this last slot, we typically will use Weeping Wounds, which increases our status chance. However, if you look at the weapon here, the actual projectile that you're shooting doesn't have anything except for impact. Now, if it was slash, I would be super happy with increasing the status chance. Impact, though, I'm not super happy to increase that. I feel like it would be a waste of a mod slot to increase just to get impact. There's another mod that would use impact to armor strip. Let me bring that up real quick here. Shattering, I think it's called. Shattering Impact. So this is a mod that's really good on certain gunblades. Not all of them, certain gunblades. It's not necessarily that great on the Stropha because the Stropha is shooting a single projectile every time. Something like the Vastolock that has like 9 multi-shot, like this is really good on. But the Stropha, not so much. Even though the Stropha is impact damage, it's only a single shot at a time. And this is only reducing the armor by 6 at a time. So for the Stropha specifically, unless you're going for like a weird utility build, you wouldn't use Shattering Impact. I'm sure there is like a utility build where you could use Shattering Impact with a Stropha. But normally on the max DPS build, you're not going to be using that. Okay, so back to Killing Blow. And the whole reason we're not using Weeping Wounds, just because on the actual statuses, we're just going to have Impact, and we're going to be putting on Melee Exposure, which also gives us Corrosive, but we don't really care about the proc. You know, we don't really care about the actual proc effect. So we don't need Weeping Wounds. So instead, we go with Killing Blow. Killing Blow is going to give us 120% melee damage on heavy attack. So it's going to increase the damage that your heavy attack does, which is your big shot that has a really wide area. You also get heavy attack wind-up speed, which doesn't work as it normally does during Tennokai. Like heavy attack wind-up speed is kind of weird. Like there's an Amalgam Organ Shatter that has a similar thing, right? Like 60 heavy attack wind-up speed, but wind-up speed and Tennokai don't really play well together. Like it's super neutered. Like it almost feels like it doesn't even work. I think it technically does, but it's so minimal it's hard to actually see. You would have to like look at it frame by frame to see a difference. So we're using Killing Blow basically just for that 120% melee attack on melee damage on a heavy attack. Alrighty, in the stance slot, I'm going to show both stances, and typically I will say that, like, you know, hey, use the stance that feels the best for you. But in this case, I think High Noon is the objective best stance. I still will go to the Simulacrum, and I'll show both stances for you. But High Noon has a moveset that fires 2 shots. And typically, after those 2 shots, you'll be able to Tennokai. So your normal rotation is going to be 2 shots, heavy attack, 2 shots, heavy attack, 2 shots, heavy attack. And it's a very nice way, very nice, easy way to play this weapon. The other stance does not have that. You have to start doing like weird janky stuff. Okay, in the Tennokai slot, we're going to be using Disciple's Merit. This is going to be helping us to do that combo with High Noon. So opportunities occur every 4 melee hits instead of at random. So normally in the Tennokai slot, for like a lot of melee weapons, we use Dreamer's Wrath. Because Dreamer's Wrath not only increases our Tennokai opportunity chance, but it gives us critical damage as well. And I mean, it would be strong on this weapon too, Dreamer's Wrath. It would be very strong. You would actually get more damage when it happens than you will with Disciple's Merit. But Disciple's Merit makes the combos on this weapon so smooth that it feels like butter. So you should use Disciple's Merit all the time on this weapon. Okay, finally, in the Arcane slot, this is another thing that's a little bit weird. The whole Gunblade thing is going to kind of mix up our melee builds. You know, it's not going to be built exactly the same as a regular melee build. So normally in the Arcane slot, we're using Melee Influence. If Melee Influence would have required us to actually have a electric mod on our build, which we don't, so that lets us get a free mod slot for something else. But Melee Influence, like, it spreads around electric, it does a good amount of damage, it usually beats all of the other arcanes. However, this weapon has a really low status chance of 14%, and because it's only a single projectile that shoots every time, it's actually quite low to trigger that Melee Influence. I sat in the Simulacrum just like testing like the average time to trigger that Melee Influence, and it was pretty garbage. So I would not recommend on this specific weapon Melee Influence, which leaves us with a few options. Okay, before we go over Melee Exposure, which is the one I'm going to pick, let's talk about Melee Animosity, because this is a good choice, and this is good for this weapon as well. On a melee hit, which also includes the little shooting attacks, you gain 42% critical chance on your next heavy attack up to 420%. So this will boost up your heavy attacks that you're doing. And because the shots have infinite punch through, you know, usually you're going to hit a lot of things with those 2 shots before you go for the melee attack. And you might not be exactly all the way up to 420, but you might be in like the 200-300% critical chance on your heavy attack when you do it. So melee animosity is pretty decent. But we don't have any status on our weapon currently. And status has a weird effect on weapons where it's like, it's kind of like a 1 + 1 = 3 kind of effect, where you get more damage out of your weapon if you just have a little bit of status on it. I'm not much of a math person. I'm more of a person that tests builds, and through pure attrition of just doing tests, I try to figure out what is best. So if there's more of a math person out there, maybe they can explain that. But when you have status on your weapon, you know, like 100 flat plus 100 flat might equal 200, but 100 flat plus 100 element a lot of times equals 300. You know, there's like a synergistic effect with both of them. So we don't want to have no status, and that's where melee exposure comes in. We're putting corrosive damage on our melee weapon. Now you have to be casting an ability every 25 seconds to keep this at max stacks. So it'll stack up to 240% corrosive damage as long as you're casting an ability every 25 seconds. So this would work on most frames unless you have a weird frame that doesn't need to cast abilities often, or maybe you have like a super high duration frame. And in that case, melee animosity is really, really good. But melee exposure will beat it out if you have just like a normal frame that needs to cast abilities once in a while. All right. So that's melee exposure there. And yeah, that's the build for the Stropha. So I'm going to head to the Simulacrum real quick, and I'm going to show you those two stances, and I'm going to show you the typical way we're going to play this weapon. Someone in the comments actually gave me a good thing. He said, go into here, click on Visit Cephalon Samaris, and that'll put you right near the Simulacrum thing. So ever since they said that, I've been doing that. You know, it's something I should have known. I never thought of it. I would just go to the relay, and then I would have to fast travel to him. So this kind of eliminates one of those steps. Alrighty. So currently we have on, I think it's high noon. Let me just double check. High noon. Okay. So let's go over these stances. Okay. First, we're going to go over the forward light. I'm going to do the entire combo for the forward light. So it starts with a shot, and then it ends with a shot on the final attack. Now I'm going to do the neutral light. All right. Now I'm going to do the forward block. All right. Now I'm going to do the neutral block. So just hold block, not move forward, and then E. All right. Now, the way you're going to play this is you're going to do the neutral light. So not moving forward and press E. And that's it. You're not actually going to go through the entire animation where you start slashing around. You're just going to tap E, one tap, 2 shots. And that will typically allow you enough hits for your Tennokai to take effect, and then you would do a heavy attack. So you would do the 2 shots, heavy attack. 2 shots, heavy attack. 2 shots, heavy attack. Now, there's something else that you can mix in with this. This is a little bit more janky, and since I'm not a super experienced Gunblade player, I'm probably going to mess this up. But you can mix the forward light with the neutral light and get 3 shots in very quick succession instead of 2 shots. So normally you would do 2 shots and then the heavy attack. Well, if you do the neutral light and then you're going to mix it with the forward light, but only the first attack. You don't want to keep holding E. Let me see if I can get this okay on the stream here. Now, of course, you're going to get better at doing this. It's a little bit staggered for me. But you have 3 shots in very quick succession. So that is like the max DPS way. You would have to be playing Gunblades for a long time to be better on the keys than I am there. So for me, I'm mostly going to just be doing the 2 shots and then heavy. 2 shots and heavy. But, you know, max DPS, you could be mixing in that forward light as well. All right. Let's show off the other stance. I don't really like the other stance, but I want to give all the options for people. So the other stance is going to be Bullet Dance. Alrighty. Let's do the forward light here. So I think the first shot and the last shot are or the first attack and the last attack are the shooting attacks. Okay, let's do the neutral light. It's not a bad one. I mean, you could cancel out before you do the slash. Like you could probably, let me see here. You could probably just go 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Oh, I guess you get 4 attacks, and then not do the slash. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then let go before the slash hits. But the thing is, you get those 2 shots from the other stance quicker than these ones. Like these, these ones are a little bit more staggered. Okay, let's do the forward heavy. It's kind of cool. And let's do the neutral heavy. All right, this one's kind of cool. Actually, I have to do it this way. So you actually move backwards. This is a retreating attack. You ready? You start rolling around like you're friggin' John Wick on the floor, and you move backwards. So I could see this kind of being cool, like in a hallway, like you know, enemies coming at you, and you're just kind of moving backwards, shooting them like you're John Wick there. Really cool, but I think in practice this won't be super practical. So okay, those are the move sets there. Let me go back to my what was it, High Noon? I think we were using. Yeah, we were using High Noon. So put High Noon back on there, and again, we're just gonna do the simple 2 shots heavy, 2 shots heavy. You can mix it with that forward light if you really want to, if you want to get crazy with it. I'm just not very experienced with it, so I'm gonna mess it up if I try to do that during the game. So let me go back to Orbiter here. All right. So on my Inaros, I put a subsume that I can just spam to get the... oops, sorry. Oh, actually, no, that's the right one. So again, that arcane requires us to press a button every 25 seconds for us to get those corrosive stacks. So I put a subsume on my Inaros so that I could just spam. That's cheap energy and doesn't affect gameplay. So Eclipse, the way it works now is that you can tap it or hold it. If you hold it, you get the damage buff. I will not be doing that. If you tap it, you just get damage reduction. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm just going to be tapping it every now and then to keep myself at the max corrosive stacks. All right, we'll take our little hound with us and we'll head in. Shermont. Solo Steel Path. And we'll do our Mott. Actually had to farm Cephalon Cimeris rep to get that 8-star sacrificial pressure.
These foes deserve your respect. Honor them with quick deaths, and
So I was going to press this 4 times just so I can get it starting to stack up, and then I'll just make sure I press it every 25 seconds. Now, of course, if you're using a Warframe that like has normal abilities, you're going to be able to just use your normal abilities every once in a while. You may be a lot smoother doing this than I am. Again, I don't have a lot of experience with gunblades, like actually using them. But, I mean, they're extremely powerful. I'm getting red crits with a single exclamation. This might be able to even get into the double exclamations. Just remember, it does have a maximum range. Like it's not going to shoot out forever. It's actually quite like close to close medium-ish range. So you can't like be sniping with it basically. Ooh. I heavied attack without my Tenokais. I lost all my combo. I have to build back up. That's my bad. I was a little bit too quick on pressing that that heavy attack button. Yeah, you definitely only want a heavy attack when you see the circle in the middle, the Tenokaya button. So very interesting weapon. You know, it doesn't play like a normal melee does. I believe this is the best combo for it. I mean, it has other combos like we showed in the simulacrum there. Like, so you don't have to play it like this, but I believe like this is the most efficient way. Myself, you know, again, I have limited experience with gunblades. So if you're an avid gunblade user, let me know if you mix other combos in. Oh, I pressed my 3. Well, my 3 only gives me armor status immunity. I accidentally pressed it. That was my bad, but it doesn't do anything for weapon performance. Let's get the let's see what it does on this guy. One heavy attack. I haven't been very good about pressing my 1 to give me the corrosive stacks either, so I've probably missed them a few times. I also did double check that Killing Blow actually works on the heavy attack here, because this is a gunblade, and so like it is a little bit confusing. It's like heavy melee attacks, and it's like, well, is it technically a melee attack since it's shooting? And it does work. It does work. All right, we're at 5 minutes. I really like the Hound, but because he is a like not a sentinel that sits over your shoulder, he can kind of do his own thing. And so even though he's the best range primer, he doesn't always prime where you want. Like he might be behind me, like going on his own adventure. So it's not like Dirija where like everything's always going to be primed like when you're meleeing them. That's why Dirija will stay the strongest melee primer. But for range, he is the strongest, and it's just because Dirija, they'll be out of Dirija's range to prime with this weapon because it shoots out a bit. Because Dirija's a little bit more close range.
Let it be known, if the Tenno wants true salvation, they will lay down their arms and wait for the
I'm doing pretty decent. I'm interested to see how many kills this gets in 10 minutes. I don't know if it's going to get the same as a regular melee weapon. I don't know if it's going to get more. I know there's like a little bit of difference between, you know, melee weapons and gun blades. You have to kind of like... You're getting extra with a gun blade because it can actually shoot out. So like I'm going to assume it probably does less than a regular melee weapon. But we'll see. Maybe it'll surprise us and we get more. So melee weapons have been hitting around 800 to 1,000 kills in 10 minutes. So we'll see what this gunblade gets. The spawns are being a little bit annoying because they're attacking my dog instead of coming to me. Hit one life support, maybe two. One or two will hit. We have another Acolyte coming. Make sure I have my corrosive stacks up. I've been bad about pressing my ability. I'm used to Inaros like basically not having any abilities to cast. Or at least the old Inaros. I have my Inaros built out for the old Inaros that didn't really use any abilities. The new reworked Inaros actually has some pretty good stuff you could actually cast. Old Inaros was just a big dumb meat stick. Oh, I missed. All right, so we're at 10 minutes right now. Where's extraction? It's over here. 10 minutes, we're at 770 kills. So far that is kind of in line to some of the weaker, like pure melee weapons.
Extraction is ready.
But I think you maybe need to give gunblades a little bit of credit because they do things that melee can't do. You know, they could actually shoot out. So you have to, I guess they make a little bit of concessions. Maybe they don't get as many kills because they're able to shoot out. And this is still a good amount of kills, though, in 10 minutes. It's not, like, bad. It's just that some of the better melee weapons we've done so far have gotten to about 1,000, a little bit over 1,000.
It is done, Tenno.
And again, my experience on gunblades is limited. So if that was you and you're more, like, smooth with those combos, you probably could have gotten more kills in 10 minutes. So, you know, mileage may vary. My inexperience with gunblades may be showing there on the kill count at the end. So yeah, that's how you build the Stropha out. I really enjoy it. The actual playstyle of it's kind of cool. Like the 2 shots heavy, 2 shots heavy, 2 shots heavy. And Disciple's Merit helps a lot with that. So, alright guys, if you liked it, consider giving it a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. And you guys have a great day. Bye.